Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Just Reading Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about The Crowns of Nyaxia duology by Carissa Broadbent. So, it's a fantasy romance, and have you ever wanted to read like a good fantasy romance, but you don't want like to commit to 5 or 6 books and you want the series to just be done? You don't want to have to wait for a month or a few months or a year or a few years for the series to be done and ready. This is it, guys. This is the series. So this was actually a Bookstagram recommendation, and I have no regrets about this book. Fantasy romance is one of my favorite genres, if not my favorite genre, and I think we've talked about that before. And so I wanted a good epic fantasy romance, and I just didn't want to commit to like a long haul. So I saw this book being floated around by a couple of people that I follow on Bookstagram, and I was just like, oh, let me look into it some more. Carissa Broadbent is a new to me author. I've read one other book of hers, which is the Daughter of No World series, and I actually listened to it on audio. That's a bit of a long haul as well. That has a few books in the series. I think it's either 3 or 4. I've only read book one. I have not read the rest yet, because I would like to finish the series, but I needed I needed some palate cleansers. My mood reading kicked in, so I saw her and I knew of her from the other book, and I thought, oh, okay, she writes pretty well. Let's see what this one is all about. Oh my god, guys, so good. It's actually in this world there are, I think, 4 books, if I'm not mistaken. But these two are of the same, they follow the same characters in the same story. The other books are set in the same world, but the stories are for other characters within that world. And so we have The Serpent and the Wings of Night, book one, and then we have The Ashes and the Star Cursed King, book two. Okay, let's talk about it. So, in the story, humans are prey. It's a vampire, it's based off of vampire mythos, okay? Mythology, if you will. And humans are prey. So vampires and humans coexist in this world among other magically inclined creatures, right? And it starts off with the two main characters are Araya, a human girl, and Rain, a vampire warrior. Araya is the adopted daughter of a vampire king called Vincent, and he rules the night court. And she's beloved. Vincent loves his adopted human daughter, but she's also prey. She's human. Her blood smells appetizing to the vampires within the court. And so, to keep her alive, Victor has taught her how to survive. He has taught her how to fight, how to kick some major insert now and there. He has taught her just all the skills that she would ever need, but their relationship is complicated. Victor is a warrior. He's a king. He's closed off emotionally. He loves her, but he's never told her he loves her. His way of telling her or showing her he loves her is to protect her and provide for her. And he's a hard taskmaster because he pushes her and constantly pushes her to be the best and to fight any way she can and to survive any way she can. And so that has been her parental figure her whole life. She's gotten older now. I think she's in her early 20s, if I'm not mistaken, the character ages. And she decides to enter a competition. It's a vampire warrior competition, and the goal or the prize is a wish from their goddess. So there are gods and goddesses in this world, and they're worshipped, and they bestow their worshippers with like powers. And so the vampire goddess is the one that like sets up the competition. It's a little otherworldly. And at the end of it, she comes down from the heavens or the plane of her existence, and she grants one wish to the victor. The last time, and this competition is only held like once every few hundred years. So the last time the competition was held, Araya's father was the winner, Vincent. And with his wish, he wished to become king of the Night Court realm. Their species of vampire and all the species of vampire, right? And it caused a bit of a rift and a feud between her father's faction and another faction of vampire, right? And so they're like constantly butting heads. But Vincent came out the victor, so he kind of rules everybody, and the other faction is subjugated to him. Araya decides that she wants to join this competition, and she wants to wish. Her wish from the goddess is um, to share some of Victor's powers. So there is a way for them to be connected. It's either a spiritual connection or a heart connection or something, but they share. He would end up sharing his powers with her, and it would give her she has magic, but her magic is not reliable. Her magic is very sputtery. Like, she doesn't depend on her magic because she doesn't have much to speak of. So it would allow her to tap into Vincent's magic. It would allow her to, her mortality would be extended, if not changed to being immortal. And she might, there is a chance that she might actually lose her humanity, but they're all in because it would prevent her from being prey. So, book one follows her entering the contest. It follows her realizing that even more than she did before, that this is really dangerous and she'll probably end up dying instead of winning. Vincent does all he can for her, but he can't do much because the contestants have to win or lose on their own. Those are the rules of the game. Enter Rain. Rain has kind of, everyone in the kingdom knows about Araya, and he's been eyeing her for a while. And something happens in the very beginning that brings him to her, into her zone, like into her awareness. And he decides to broach the subject of them being partners because it's a way for him to kind of get into Vincent's good graces. Rain ends up, Rain is part of the warring clan. So that other vampire faction that Vincent kind of subjugated when he became king, Rain is part of that. And so the alliance between him and Araya is kind of his way of getting in good with Vincent, and it'll probably help them both. And alliances are good to make in the very beginning, and it's encouraged because it helps you get through the trials. However, at the very very end, like for their final battle, it's expected that you're basically gonna, each partner's gonna try and kill the person that they partnered with, right? So it's an understated statement that they both are expecting each other to try and kill the other one. So they start fighting, they start going through the competition, and Rain and Araya are going at it together. And it's hard for her to trust people because the way Vincent taught her, he always taught her to rely on herself, to never trust anyone because she's prey to them. They'll kill her. They'll take her blood and that'll be it. So she doesn't trust. So Rain has to prove himself to her over and over and over again. And then they hate each other at first. So it's definitely enemies to lovers. It's Grumpy Sunshine. Araya's the grump, which is very interesting, but very good because usually they have the guys being the grump. But Araya's the grump instead of Rain. And they're going through the motions, and they're falling in love slowly. So it's a bit of a slow burn. There's an attraction, but they don't do anything with the attraction. Araya is hard set. She doesn't really want to trust him. Rain has secrets of his own that if he shares them with Araya, it could mean the end of whatever beginning seeds of love that there might be or attraction that there might be. And so we follow that story all throughout book one. We follow book one is all about them going through the competition, Rain's secrets coming out to the forefront, um, and they win the competition. And I'm trying not to make it too spoilery because I want you to try it on your own. If this is up your alley, like you will love this book. So they go through that very last test, and there's a twist at the end, and Rain gets a wish from the goddess, and this is when his secret comes out, and he overthrows Vincent's kingdom, and everything is in turmoil, and Araya's heart is broken. And she realizes that her lover, at this point, they are lovers. Her lover is not who she thought he was going to be, who he was. And she's basically betrayed her father and her people. And they are her people, even though she is human and they are vampire, because she is his adopted daughter. She's his Vincent's daughter of the heart. And so they go through, and then that ends book one. Book one ends on a cliffhanger, but never fear because book two is already here. And so we enter book two, The Ashes and the Star Cursed King. Rain is now on the throne. Araya is captive, and she's also married to Rain. In order for him to do a few things, secure the throne and protect her and save face with all the people who thinks that a former slave turned warrior isn't deserving of being ruler, he married her. She doesn't see it that way. She's simply looking at the betrayal, and she's mourning. She's mourning the loss of the man she always thought was her father. And she's mourning the fact that he wasn't honest with her. Like, he had his own secrets that he never shared with her. And it's gut wrenching for her. And so book two opens up and starts to follow them. And it's dual point of view in book two. So book one is all from Araya's point of view and perspective. But book two, Rain's point of view comes into play, and we start to understand him a little bit more. And let me tell you, guys, Rain is such a softie for Araya and a pining hero. Now, I have to say, if you've been watching some of my videos for a while, you should get the sense that I love a pining hero, especially a strong, possessive alpha male who is like a cinnamon roll on the inside and just pines for the woman that he loves. Love it. And I also love strong female characters. So Araya is my favorite because she is such a bad, she's a great fighter, and she looks fair in the face and she just keeps on pushing. But that's a testament to how Vincent raised her. And her weapons of choice are blades. So she's got like two blades, knives that she carries with her everywhere. Are you going to a ball? No matter how scantily dread she is, check her. She's got her blades strapped somewhere to her body. And I love how supportive Rain is because he fights side by side with her. He doesn't try to hold her back. He doesn't try to temper her. He's just like, in fact, he encourages her. He's like, let's do this. You want us to go fight him? Let's go fight him. Let's go. So book two is all about them basically trying to find themselves back to each other and unite the kingdom as well. But first, they have to go on a quest because some of the factions that Rain had to get help from or to ally with in order to secure the throne, once he won the competition, some of those allies have their own agenda. Isn't that how political intrigue always works? And so they want something from him. So they have to go on a quest. And when they go on their quest, They're trying to find the remains of a murdered god to gain power. Araya and Rain, they have no need for this, but they're being forced into it by one of their allies who's not really an ally. But in order for them to get something, this is what the cost is. And so they have to go on a quest to find the remains of this god, whatever it could be, the blood, the teeth, the bones, it doesn't matter. Any kind of part of this murdered god will give the person who has access to it immeasurable power. And so they have to go on their quest. And so it follows them going on their quest. It follows them finding out more about Araya's powers, because turns out she's got powers that she never knew about, and more of her heritage. Turns out she's not just a regular old human girl. There is more to her heritage than meets the eye that Vincent knew of but didn't share with her. And then she is realizing that Vincent might not have loved her the way she thought he had loved her. Not other than a father, but not as his love might not have been as selfless as she thought it was. And so they're going through all their levels and all the quests, and Rain gets tortured. Araya has to save him. Araya has to protect her people. She has to go back and secure her throne. They have to they end up they end up starting a war. There was so much happening. There was so much happening, but it was all great. Um she has to find out who her family is, and through it all, Rain is always by her side, always by her side. And at the very end, when they're finally getting their HEA, she comes to realize that this is it. Like, she's with him, and he's always known it. Rain has always known it, and he's never hidden the fact from her that he'll follow her anywhere. And Araya, in turn, then she has to save his life. She has to find a way to save him. And so she has to basically make a request of one of the goddesses on the out of the god realm, or whatever, if you want to call it. They never did give a name for where the gods and goddesses live, I don't think. But I've just been calling it the god plane or the god realm or whatever. And they get their HEA, guys. They get their HEA, but the journey to it was filled with so much adventure and so much fun. And yes, there's spice. I always like to tell you guys when there's spice, because I know some people, like, that's a hot button topic, and some people don't like books that have a lot of spice, and some people don't care. And I'm one of the ones that don't really care. Like, spice doesn't bother me. I think a little bit of spice is always nice. But I can read books without it too, as long as the story is good. But this one has spice. They don't, it's not in every chapter, it's not in every page, it's not overly done, to be honest. You really get to connect to the characters before Carissa Broadbent, the author, before she has a nice build up to it. So it's like a slow burn. I love a good slow burn because it allows me time to really connect with the characters and get invested in their relationship before they start all the spicy scenes. If it's insta love and like insta spice, sometimes I'm just like, wait, what? How are you just like 1 minute you're doing this and the next minute it takes me out of the story? And sometimes that just makes it like an automatic DNF for me. But if we're in the story and they've gone through everything and you can see that the relationship is coming together nicely for the characters, then they give me the spice, like, emotionally, and I'm invested, I'm I'm invested. And even though it's partially it has like the vampire mythologies and as the base, there's not a lot of like blood play. There is, but there isn't. Um, I don't know how else to explain that, but it didn't seem overly done to me. Like even the romantic elements between Rain and Araya, it wasn't overly done. So it wasn't like a whole lot of like feeding from each other. You know, like it wasn't like that kind of deal. So the spice I want to say in book one didn't come until maybe 70% in, so that's good. And in book two, when they were like at odds with each other and like they had to work back to that trusting relationship, again, it didn't come into play until maybe 50 or 60% in. So this is what I mean when I say it's like a slow burn. Like the Miss Broadbent, she gives you like a lot to work with before she throws any spice in there. So for me, guys, this duet was a 5-star read. Like 5 stars for book one, 5 stars for book two. So let's just say it's like a 10-star read. It was 2 books already done. Epic fantasy romance, enemies to lovers, political intrigue, grumpy sunshine, pining hero, a warrior heroine, some elements of magic. There was magic use in it, vampires, gods and goddesses, epic quests, like mystery, of course, because they had to figure out who Araya's family was. And if you can tell by the excitement in my voice, I really, really enjoyed this book. These books. I really enjoyed this duet. And so Carissa Broadbent did a phenomenal job, in my opinion. So if you're looking for a quick fantasy romance read that has all the elements of a good fantasy romance and is only 2 books long, so it's not a major commitment. It has a little bit of spice that you can either enjoy or skip over or not at all. It's all choice driven here. Then this is the duet for you. The Crowns of Nyaxia, um, Nightborn duet, The Serpent and the Wings of Night, and The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. It was a great, great read. All right, guys. So this was a wonderful episode. I gushed over this book, these books, and I really enjoyed them, and I hope you do the same. And you guys have a great day, and of course, just keep on reading. Thanks now. Bye. See you next time.